somebody shooting the video?
Any way the wire would get crossed.
We're tangled.
It's supposed to be wireless.
We're still tangled.
There's another knot down by the floor there. You might work out.
There
I think we got it. How many of you used Gordon West Study Guides to get your license?
Oh, wow.
Well, does anybody know who Gordon West is?
Ask
Do you know who Gordon West is?
not yet. It's way too early.
Gordo's, if for first timers, Gordo's a mainstay here at Quartzfest. He's been here for years and years and years and years, and it helps me out so much in planning. So thanks a lot, Gordo. Welcome.
Okay.
And Gordo's our speaker this morning.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Good morning, everyone. This is our first session at Quartzfest, our brand new tent, huh? What do you think? It's thanks to the, come on, we got plenty of room right on up here. Come right on in.
Not in front of the projector.
I want to thank Tracy, who always bails me out when it comes to audio visual. Come right on in. All right, good. Any more?
Back here. I got it. How far can you
All right, officially 9 o'clock, and we'll get started. And we won't have any visuals just yet, but we will shortly. Yes, we're ready now. This morning, we're going to talk all about the art of working DX versus tropospheric ducting. And we're going to be talking about hearing sounds that, hang on just for a second here.
Oh, great job. We can still be in the middle.
All right, can you all hear that?
Yep.
You hear the Morse code in the background?
In the middle of it.
Nope, I don't either. Well, we're going to talk all about how that happens, and we're going to be exploring the
Hold it up a little higher.
segment of the amateur radio bands, not down here with the AM broadcast. We're not going to be talking about 75 or 40 or 20 or 15 or 10 meters. Nope, not that. That type of propagation is usually ionospheric skip, and we aren't talking about ionospheric skip. Rather, we're going to come up here and talk about the 2-meter band and the 440 band, even up as high as 1200, even up as high as microwave. How many microwavers do we have up here? All right, got a few. So thank you. So this is the electronic spectrum, and we're going to be concentrating on this area up here. This is the area where weather makes all the difference. It's how far you can talk on 2 meters of the 440 band. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That was a great job of showing off our radio waves. By the way, our radio waves and our microwave bands are constantly under threats of being taken away, and there is a notice of proposed rulemaking that the FCC has started to take away our 3.5 gigahertz band and our 5 gigahertz band. So we hope all of you will see that any band that we lose as ham radio operators, that's no good. We need to make sure that we have all of the bands that we started with, and a few more could be added, but don't mess with our microwaves. Yes, sir.
What service is trying to take?
What service? What?
Is trying to take those?
Who's trying to take the bands away?
The FCC is getting pressure from the automotive industry and other point-to-point broadcasters. Money, money, money. And the hams we write for free. So it's part of the vehicular, where a Cadillac talks to a Chevy that, you know, in front of you or behind you, push a button and they get out of the way. That, that stuff is coming. We're going to be talking about the weather that affects us. We're not going to be talking about moonbounds. How many have done moonbounds? Yeah, that was moonbounds. We're not going to be talking about satellites, and you can hear the satellite tumbling as we're going through. It's a satellite. We're going to be talking about propagation of satellites. We aren't going to be talking about meteor bursts either. How many have ever made a CW contact via an aurora? An aurora. Here is an aurora contact. Listen to the raspy sound. That's a signal coming off of an aurora. Now, we are going to be talking about sporadic E. Sporadic E on an FM contact will cause that contact, because FM is so wide, the sporadic E will cause it to go into distortion. Listen to this 6 meter FM contact via sporadic E. That's distortion, phase distortion. What we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about the weather. And everybody knows about the weather. The weather as we experience it today, we're breathing air. Air plays a very important part in VHF and UHF tropospheric ducting. Air contains nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, neon, helium, and for those that had beans last night, methane. Little did you know that you would be contributing to tropospheric ducting. The weather systems that create tropospheric ducting are usually a high pressure system that builds. And we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of Tracy work here. So Tracy, if you go to that slide, there we go. And one more.
Look at that young guy.
All right. Normally our VHF radio waves go about 22% further than the geometric horizon. And that is due to, on a vertically or horizontally polarized radio wave, the very bottom of that radio wave will slow down slightly, causing the top part of that radio wave to go about 20% further than the horizon. So the one good way to get VHF and UHF DX is to get your antenna way up high. But you have to almost 4 times the height of your antenna to really get a meaningful difference. I hear hams talking about getting their beams up at 20 feet. Now they got it up to 25 feet. Well, that probably won't make much range extension, but the weather will. All right, Tracy? So the longest weather contacts due to the weather is from the west coast of the United States to Hawaii for North America. There are new records that Australia, New Zealand, and down under have done, and as well as in Europe where they've had some very long-haul Tropo ducts. But you can get a good idea as to how far we're going to be talking about on 2 meters. How many on 2 meters? Yeah, everybody is. Did you ever get a repeater that was out of your area going, whoa, man, that's like 100, that's like 200 miles away? Well, when that occurs, and it usually occurs in May, June, July, and August. Why May, June, and July, and August? Well, that's when the troposphere begins to form up. And we're going to be talking about the troposphere and the stratosphere as they affect ham radio.
Gordo?
And as we, what question? Yes, sir.
Yes, Randy. Can you back up a slide, Tracy, please? What are the two grid squares up north? Because that's kind of high territory.
Yeah, you're up here. That is, let's see, Charlie November 75 and Charlie November.
FU.
Yeah, so you're about. I'll have to take a.
I'm a little bit south.
Yeah, but you have a great opportunity in Oregon with that high lofty because Randy is picking up ship stations on the ship station identification service, and he's picking them up. Have you got them all the way to Hawaii yet?
When the van opens, I get them from Vancouver down to San Francisco.
Right.
And up on the southern Oregon coast.
Very
I'll have
good.
a beam up next
All right.
summer.
Good. Well, congratulations. You're getting good DX. So the troposphere is that area from the ground on up to about 2 to 3 miles for where it begins to affect our VHF and UHF signals. And the extension of the VHF and UHF signals can be visualized by the layering of the atmosphere. Tracy, you could go back. I'm sorry, no, if you go forward one. The atmosphere will sometimes begin to develop what we call a tropospheric duct. Now, where's Frank? Frank, would you come on up here? And we're going to create a little tropospheric duct. We need for you to get this up to about 30 pounds. So just go ahead and start.
Well, that's easy.
Yeah, no, it'll go. All right. Come on, Frank. No, you're getting it. Come on, Frank. Oh, there he goes. All right. Now, if we were to feel that pump, ooh, that got warm. So good job, buddy. Warmed up the pump. Why did the pump get warm when he was cranking it? Compression. When you compress air, it begins to get warm. When you let air out of or helium out of a tank or something like that, the outside gets cold. Well, the same thing occurs in the atmosphere. The air begins to lose temperature. For every 300 feet, it gets 1 degree Fahrenheit cooler, which means a mile up, it's 20 degrees. So how many going on the soda expeditions, huh? Anybody gonna do a soda here? When you get up there 5,000 feet, bring your jacket. You're gonna lose 20 degrees. So the higher we go, the colder it gets. Everybody agrees? Same thing with air pressure. Air pressure decreases with height in a logarithmic manner. Normally down here on the deck, air pressure is about 10, 12 millibars. And we lose a millibar for every 30 feet of altitude. So for a kilometer up, we lose 100 millibars. Moisture. Did you ever go out in the desert and your hair just turns into a frizz ball? Well, same thing. Moisture, for every 1,000 feet, we lose a half a gram of moisture. So the atmosphere is pretty stable in September, October, November, December, Jan, February, March. But beginning April, May, and for sure June, and always July, something occurs in the atmosphere throughout the world, throughout the country, and that is the layering. And the reason we have layering of the atmosphere is a high pressure system, and I think we may have a shot of it here. There we go. The high pressure system begins to envelop between here and the Rockies, as well as from here out to Hawaii. And high pressure generally goes in a clockwise direction. When you have a huge cell of high pressure, it begins to sink. And do you know what we call sinking air? Subsidence. Good job, young lady. Very good. Subsidence.
Heather knew the answer.
That air up at 5,000 and 6,000 feet begins to drop. And on a hot day, I'm sure you've looked out and you go, ooh, boy, you see that band of brown air? That's trapped. It's not going anywhere as long as that high pressure system sits in place. And when we have a high pressure system right overhead, generally there's very, very little wind. In fact, when mariners go from here to Hawaii, from Southern California to Hawaii, or Oregon to Hawaii, they are experiencing almost no wind, so they don't hold sailboat races in July other than the Transpac. And that's always the biggest gripe. Why in July there's no wind? Yeah, but there's great radio conditions. So what occurs is that high pressure system, the air begins to sink, which we call subsidence. But when it gets down to close to ground level, it begins to spread out in a cell, and the other air is coming on top, so we're getting air that is squished. And when we squish air, many times we can actually visualize it. Thank you. This is last night. That was vodka. No, that was something else. Anyway, we can take a laser beam, and notice that right here we get a little bit of bending. Here we get almost no bending, but right at this point here, you'll see that it goes all the way through and it's bending, and then there's a solution on the top as well. And as soon as that settles down even more, you'll see more about that. But this is the layering of the atmosphere. And this happens to be with fluids, but the layering of the atmosphere, same deal. You get an area, and you can see it right here, and that is the tropospheric duct, just that white area near the top. And notice that the whole area illuminates with the green laser. See that illuminating? Once that area gets illuminated, it will continue to follow in the direction of the high pressure system. So when we have out here on the desert or in New Mexico a high pressure system that drifts in, you'll find that the high pressure that has drifted in will begin to capture VHF and UHF radio waves. If it's a wide temperature inversion, you can actually see them as just hanging smoke and smog. It'll go down to the 2-meter band and a little bit of 6 meters. Remember the old days of television analog on channel 2 and 3? And sometimes you'd get stations 400 and 500 miles away. Same deal, usually in July and August, due to the high pressure system. So when the high pressure system begins to settle in, we begin to get a tropospheric duct. Here it's called a subsidence inversion. And instead of the temperature getting colder as we go higher, it goes, whoa, I'm going to get warmer because I'm in this nice warm high pressure system, and then it's going to get colder. So it's almost like a waveguide that channels your VHF and UHF and microwave signals a great deal further. So the subsidence inversion is what gives us this change. Notice we get colder, colder, ooh, warmer, and then colder. And it's a very stable layer of that high pressure system. The high pressure system created by the inversion layer, created by a high pressure system, can easily be heard by dialing into the weather stations on 162.55, because they're always on the air. All of your VHF handhelds have weather channel capabilities. Don't tune in your local weather. No, that's like 20 miles away. It's like working 146.55. That's simplex local. Tune in to Weather Channel 2 or 3 or 4. Whoa, Channel 4. I never get anything on 4. And they're talking about Albuquerque, they're talking El Paso. Sure, out here on the desert, many times you can get great propagation during July and August all the way down to Texas. And let's go to the next one. And in Denver, Colorado, you can see again the tropospheric duct right above what would be the cool, moist air below. And again, what happens when you squeeze air? Temperature goes up, pressure goes up, and what happens to the water vapor? It goes down. So this high pressure is just hanging there as a thin band. And the thinner the band, the higher the frequency we can operate. And I go ahead and do a lot of 10 gigahertz, and at 10,000 megahertz we can really tell when we have a tropo duct forming up. Many times you can look out over the desert or over the ocean, whatever you have near you, and physically see where the atmosphere has become layered like we see there in the fluids. Here we see a perfect high pressure duct that forms up off of the oil islands